Have you returned to the office? Is half your team still working from home? Maybe 40% of your team is no longer with your organization. We want to help you through those transitions. Welcome back to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris. Before we jump into today's episode, click here to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, ring that bell so you're notified each week when we post new content. Today's episode, I've got Carolyn Grant with Navigate Transition with me today. We're going to be talking about the work that we've been doing with clients, managing this process of so much change that's been happening over the last 2 years. So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Stacey.
So glad to have you back. We have had a lot of fun times and a lot of great conversation with clients, just helping them really navigate through all of the change. Right. And so why don't you first introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers?
Sure. I am a transition coach, so I help anyone who's going through change, whether it's a personal change, a life transition, moving, a cross-cultural change, and most recently now with organizations that are dealing with change, with movement in the office with their people. So yeah, a lot of working with change.
Yes. So you've mentioned change and you've also mentioned transition. And I know that was a big aha for me the past couple of years. So why don't you, first of all, define the difference? Tell us the difference between the two.
Right. So change is what's happening externally. It's the things that are happening to us. The new job, the loss of a job, getting married, losing someone. Those are the external changes that are happening to us. Transition is what is happening internally. It's the psychological process that goes on trying to adapt to the change.
Yeah, trying to adapt.
Yeah, so it's the messy part. It's the psychological, it's the emotional part. That's not what's happening on the outside. It's what's happening internally.
And it can be very messy.
Right.
And it can be lengthy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of what we have been doing together with organizations is we've put together a program that really helps people step by step kind of talk about the messy parts, talk about the real hard things that are happening, that are going on internally that are just really difficult to bring to the table. We've given them a framework. So I really want to talk about that, what we've done with clients. And so if you've listened to any of my podcasts, you know that I am a huge proponent of self-awareness. That is a passion of mine. And so that's kind of where we started with this process of how can we bring what we both do together, especially in the midst of so much change that's happened in our world, especially in our work world in the past 2 years. And so what we've done, how we've partnered together is we've used those assessments, the DISC assessment of really helping clients, helping teams understand their own communication style, understand their own differences and how they communicate through that process. I've also used driving forces, why we're doing what we're doing. And then EQ is a real pivotal piece of understanding emotions and understanding how emotions impact decisions. And I know as we've worked with clients, we've used 1, 2, or all 3 of those assessments. And so that's what I love about this program that we've put together. It's very customizable for each team depending on what they need. But that's really the start. It's that foundation piece of self-awareness. And then we bring in that transition model, that change model. So I'd love for you to kind of high-level overview those 3 stages, and then we'll dive in a little bit to the process that we've created.
Perfect. Because to your point, I think it's really important for each style to know how they deal with change, whether it's a D, I, S, C. How do I respond when change is happening externally? What's going on internally? So I think that was a great place to start. Then what we added to that, if you remember, was just giving them the framework. And it's a tool used by William Bridges that's been going on for years. It's not something we just made up, where he takes people through endings, the neutral zone, and new beginnings. So endings, when anything comes to an end, there's loss, right? Because things have changed, things are no longer going the way they were going. And what people forget to realize is that there's loss involved. And with loss, there's grief. And people often don't know how to process that grief, whether it's just naming, gosh, I've lost control, or I've lost identity. I used to do this and now I don't do that anymore. Or loss of structure. I used to go into the office from 9 to 5. Now I'm at home with my toddlers. Anything. And there's losses that we take people through that help them identify and name what they're feeling. Yeah. And often just that is enough for them to say, wow, what I'm going through is real. Like what I'm going through, not only I'm going through, when I hear everyone around the table, we've lost some big things. We've lost our attachments. Not everyone's in the office anymore. And that's hard. Yeah. So I think often naming our losses is a good place to start.
I know, just with some of the clients we've recently worked with, that section of the training has been so impactful. You can literally feel the emotion in the room, and you can also almost see something lifting off of people as they identify with each other, as they even figure out, I've been feeling so many feelings, but I haven't been able to actually put my finger on, oh, this is what I'm grieving. Right. This is the loss. And I love then the responses that people get to choose. And I think putting that power back in, people's hands has been really impactful. So why don't you talk about that process?
Yeah, because you can feel like a victim of change, right? But what we try and encourage people then is you always have the opportunity to respond. How do you choose to respond to what you've lost? Yeah. So that can be anything from restoring, replacing what you've lost, relinquishing what you've lost. But most of it is all about naming it and then letting it go. And that's where we often find people getting stuck, where they don't know that they have the power, that they don't feel empowered to make that change. So that's where we can really be of benefit, is helping them choose, show them the choices that they have to respond.
And so with the program that we've put together, that first day, if we can do that in person, the clients that we've been able to connect with the most, that have seen the most impact and the most movement in a positive direction, are those that we can connect with in person, where we bring everyone together, because we realize so many organizations are now spread out all over the place, and they will never be back in the same physical location at one time. So they have to intentionally come together, and there is so much of communication that's body language and tone of voice that we're missing on a Teams call or on a Zoom call.
Absolutely.
And so that in-person day has been so impactful. And if you can take a full day, it's really what it takes to get those kind of connections, to do the self-awareness piece with assessments, and then go through that overview of the change model. And then we have homework.
Right. So that we found really helpful, is getting people to go home and actually write down their losses, list them, say, why am I feeling this way? Wow, it's because I've lost my dreams for the future. I've lost my purpose in this, whether it's a merger or whether it's something like a change in the office. But what we do is give them that worksheet, so they actually have a form to fill out. They can then listen to the podcast that we have put together, and they come back with even more knowledge that they can get to share with one another, ideally in person. But again, we have done that over Zoom, where people get to say, gosh, I realized this. What did you think? It's really
so we've
powerful.
Really intentionally put together this worksheet of helping you step through even how you're processing change from a behavioral standpoint. We have that in there, and it's just step by step, listing all of those losses, naming them, how you're going to respond
to them. Right.
We do have that podcast they listen to. And then hopefully we can come back together in person. Let's talk about when it does happen virtually, because I know this last client that we worked with, we did the follow-ups after our initial day together. A month later, after the homework was done, we came back together in a virtual context, which was interesting.
It was because, again, not everyone was back in the office. So we had some calling in from home, some with a toddler running in the background, which is what we're having to deal with. This is what the workplace looks like right now.
Yeah.
So I think it was difficult. It wasn't as easy as having everyone on the same page in the same room. But we managed, and we were able to get to that deeper level of what's really going on with everyone. How are you feeling? How are you doing in this change?
Yeah.
Because that's what you want to get to, because if you're not understanding the person and what they're going through, it's just the external change. It's not the psychological transition that you're dealing with. And that's where people get stuck.
Yeah. I remember one person was like, I can't turn my camera on. I will probably be on mute most of the time because my 4-year-old's preschool canceled this morning, and I'm dealing with a lot. But I thought, that's life. That the distractions are innumerable right now, and we're having to pivot so many times. And so, we can do it virtually. The follow-up after that initial, it's not the most ideal because there are so many distractions and demands for our time. But hopefully, if we could come back together in person, those could be done in a half day or even less.
Absolutely, because you're just gathering the data again, what everyone has done, and just letting everyone see, gosh, we're all going through this change, but we're responding to it in different ways. And just having that empathy for each other as a team helps us move along to the next phase,
which is
together, which is the neutral zone. So we had endings, the neutral zone. And if you think of a car stuck in neutral, it's not going anywhere. It can really feel like a really long stuck phase if you're not assisting someone through transition.
Yeah.
So this can be feelings of, it's just chaos. No one knows what's going on at the office. No one knows what role they're supposed to be in. No one really knows who's in charge of that anymore or who's doing this. And the team can really feel like it's lost momentum. So even if you know where you're wanting to get, people can get stuck in this neutral zone. There can be a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of just feelings of, what do we do here?
Right.
Yeah.
I know we keep referencing this one team because it's top of mind. It's very fresh, but some had just returned to the office just like in the last 45 days from when we're filming this podcast. And they said that there were so many new faces. They didn't even know people, but they were just passing them in the hallway and not really connecting,
right?
Because they were feeling so, where are the people that I used to sit next to? They're gone. So much change. And I remember one of the conversations, one of the gentlemen said, wow, I realize I have withdrawn. Like, I don't even want to engage with these new people. And I've been with the organization for years. I know all of these things, and I have so much knowledge to share. And it was really an aha moment for him of that chaotic time of him being able to even have some empathy for new people and realize I need to introduce myself and I need to stop and slow down and really help, because we're all in this together and we're all experiencing it differently. I can't even imagine what they're experiencing. So I remember that just being...
That's so true. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the phases of transition in that neutral zone, or one of the things that comes up, is being really self-centered, because you're just trying to get through the change yourself. And I think we really realize then, if you're trying to do that in a team, it's not really helpful if everyone's just looking after me, you know. So I think that's where we get to say, don't forget basic skills like care and concern. So these are the things we can teach in those environments. Ask your coworker how they're doing, what's easy, what's hard for them in the transition. Just reaching out with some care and concern are some of the top 2 things we can ask people to do.
So great. And so then after that, we have more homework.
Right, because what we do in that neutral zone homework is actually give people a framework. We talk about the purpose and the picture and the plan and what part you're going to play to get there. So it's actually things they can go home and think about. So once they can fill in those gaps, when we get everyone back together after that, that's when the magic starts to happen. People go, okay, what's the purpose again? Now we know, we're all on the same page. Let's tell each other again and again. Be the chief reminding officer. Tell us why we did this merger in the first place. Oh yes, there was also a pandemic that was going on. Remind us why we're dealing with this change, right? And then it's the picture. Where are we heading? Remind us where we're going. give us a plan and tell me what my part is. And I think once everyone is on that same page, that's when we get to see the benefit of taking them through these different things.
Yeah. And then the final stage, which I wish was a date on a calendar.
Right.
I wish it was.
Everyone does.
I wish it was. Okay, we've gone through all of this, process and really dug deep with homework and self-reflection and self-awareness. And now here we are.
At the new beginning.
At the new beginning. But it's not that, right?
No.
It's not a date on the calendar.
But what we've seen with our teams is just that energy and that momentum that's been lacking. Often in change, they kind of, ending, everything's ending. It's a big roller coaster. Then they get stuck at the bottom of this, hill. And how do we get to the new beginning? And once you start putting a plan in place, there's still no timeline. We can't say by November the 20th, you'll be ready to go. This is your new beginning. But it gives them that momentum to at least get started on the journey. And tools, that's what we're doing.
Yes.
It's giving them tools, just putting them in their hands. They know what to do. They know the organization better than we do. But once they have the tools, they can actually get through the transition.
That's right. So good. I love it. Well, I hope you have gotten some hope that maybe there is hope for your team to be able to get through all of the losses that we've experienced in the last 2 years and understand what your response is to those. And then, maybe we are stuck in the neutral zone. Maybe there are some big emotions that are coming up. And maybe this process could be exactly what our team needs to help us be able to look forward and step into those new beginnings. So we would love to partner with you. Reach out to us. We want to talk to you about what your team is specifically needing, what you're going through, and how we can help you with this process that we've created to be able to get you unstuck and into the new beginnings so you're productive and performing at your highest performance level with your team fully engaged. So reach out today. All of our contact information is listed there in our bio or below this video. So reach out. Let us help you empower your team to those new beginnings. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more information on emotional intelligence, behavioral styles, or communication, I'd love for you to click here to watch more episodes. And we'd also love for you to click here to subscribe so you're notified each week when we post more content.